Hi everyone, this is Dr. Kristen Hess. We're going to use 3-column notes today. And we're going to talk about exponents and how to evaluate them. So let's start by what is an exponent. Specifically, it's a number or a letter written to the right and above a number. So for example, 3x, x is the exponent, 3 to the negative second, negative 2 is the exponent, y to the x is the exponent. So let's talk about it a little bit more about what it means mathematically. An exponent represents a repeated multiplication. So for example, 3 to the 4th power means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. X to the 5th power would be x multiplied by itself 5 times. And so any exponent means you're repeating it that many times. A negative exponent is a little different. It has to do with, the easiest way to understand it has to do with flipping it where it is in the fraction. So 3 to the negative 4th means 1 divided by 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So recall, normal 3 to the 4th power would be 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. But when you have that negative exponent, you move your multiplication to the bottom of the fraction. So x to the negative 5th would be 1 divided by x times itself 5 times. Now, if you have a negative exponent on the bottom of the fraction, you would flip it and move it to the top of the fraction. So 1 divided by 5 to the negative second would mean 5 times 5. And if you want to keep it as a fraction, it would be 5 times 5 divided by 1. But anything divided by 1 is just itself. I also want you to be familiar with the number e. It's often used when we're using exponential formulas. It's similar to the idea of pi. It's called Euler's number. It's found on your calculator. You need to use the button on your calculator because it's a never-ending number. It's close to 2.78, but always use the E button on your calculator so that you get it correct. Especially when you have financial equations, if you round it, you could be off by hundreds or thousands of dollars. So make sure you use the E button and don't type in 2.78. So I've got some exponential expressions here, and I'm going to show you how to solve these and find the exact answer by typing it into Desmos. So pause the video while you open up Desmos so you can try this along with me. Again, you're going to go to desmos.com, and I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll go through these. The first one we're going to try is 3 to the 4th power. So here in Desmos, you're going to type in the number 3, and then one option is to hit the keyboard and then click on this A to the B button and type in 4. And then it'll give you this, the answer is 81. All right, now let's go back to our slide. The next one we have is negative 3 to the 4th power. The reason I like Desmos is because when you're doing things like this, it's easy to mix up your order of operations, and Desmos always gets it correct. So negative 3 raised to the 4th power is negative 81. When you're evaluating these, first, you're assuming there's parentheses like so. And so what you're basically doing is you're saying, what's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3? And then you're adding the negative. So you'll notice in the next one, the third one is negative 3 in parentheses to the 4th power. So that one literally means negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. And if you recall, a negative times a negative is a positive. And so when you do it twice, you get a positive 81. Now what happens when we do these fractions? I want to show you some cool features about Desmos. So this next one we have is 1 divided by 3 to the 4th power. And I'm going to show you how to find both the decimal and fraction answer using Desmos. So we're going to come over here and you're going to type 1 and you'll hit your backslash, the button on your keyboard with the question mark to get the fraction. And then you'll put 3 a to the b 4. Okay, so now it gives us a long decimal. Now if you see this little button right here, if you click on that, it will give you the fraction equivalent. And that should make sense because what it's saying is on the bottom of the fraction, we have 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times itself 4 times is 81. So it should be 1 divided by 81. And so anytime you want a fraction, you just can click back and forth between these. Oftentimes you want the fraction because this decimal, you don't necessarily know if it keeps going. And especially when you're doing financial calculations, if you lose decimals, you could be off in your final answer. All right, now let's go back to our problems. Our next one is 1 over 3 to the negative 4th power. And we're going to type it in exactly that way. So you're going to do 1 backslash 3 raised to the negative 4. And for the negative, you can type in the minus sign, or you can just use the button to the right of the 0 on your keyboard. Now this one, it ends up being a whole number because recall, if you have a negative exponent, it moves it to the other side of the fraction. And so what it really is saying is it should just be 3 to the 4th power divided by 1. And if you recall, anything over 1 is just itself, so you don't have to write it again, but you can. All right, the last one is this e. So e to the 4th power. And so to do that in Desmos, you're literally going to type the letter E on your keyboard. So you'll put E, and notice how when I type in E, it gives me 2.718. And then exponent 4th power. And because it's E, it doesn't even give us the fraction option because it's a never-ending number. So most likely when you're doing this, keep it as an E until your very, very last step so that you don't have rounding issues. So in summary, we talked about what is an exponent, what does it mean, what are these negative exponents, and we showed how to solve these using Desmos.com. I highly recommend Desmos over your cell phone because Desmos makes sure you don't mess up the order of operations with those negatives and adding, multiplying. Desmos does have an app you could put on your phone if that's what you need to do. You can also just open it up on your computer. So here's some more problems I'd like you to try on your own. So solve them, find the decimal, find the fraction, and pause the video, come back, and check your answers in a minute. All right, here are the answers. If you do have any questions, let me know. Thanks for all your hard work and have a great day.